It's time to sit down and relax for the good, the bad, and the sequel Q&A with your host, Doug.
Hey there, Doug here. This week's interview is with actress and model Crystal Allen. She is a star of next week's sequel that we are going to be reviewing, Ananconda 3 Offspring. I think this might be one of the first on the call sheet. And man, Crystal was really cool. We talked about her starting off as a model and traveling the world, and then the acting bug bit her, and she was in some hit shows right off the bat like Sopranos and Ed and Sex and the City, Jag. She was even on Star Trek. And then we talked about landing this role and her experience, working with David Hasselhoff in Anaconda 3, filming in Romania. And then she got called as soon as she left filming that one. They call her to come right back to film the fourth installment, Anaconda's Trail of Blood. She's had a lot of guest starring roles. And most recently, for people that love Lifetime movies, she is in I Am a Serial Killer, where she plays the villain. And without further ado, here is Crystal Allen. No, that's perfect. Thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Great. So when was that Comic-Con? Was that last week or was that this weekend?
Comic-Con, I think wasn't it last weekend?
I think it was.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All the craziness. I didn't go this year. I've been a couple times, but it's nuts.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were going to some kind of like conference.
I'm going to this next weekend coming up is the Star Trek convention. In Vegas.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be going to that, which is fun. I go every couple years. I was on Star Trek. I did a couple episodes. I did a film, and then I did the Enterprise. So I've got, the Green Girl fan base. It's fun. You'd be surprised at how fun it is. They're such loyal fans. No,
I know. No, that and Star Wars are like the biggest fan base by far.
You're right. And they're loyal and they're excited and they just love it. Like it's such a phenomenon. I didn't even realize how big of a deal it was to just be on an episode of Star Trek. I didn't know that I would be doing conventions 15 years later.
Well, that's a good thing. So when you did that, were you a fan beforehand or no?
No, I didn't even. I mean, I remember being a little girl and it coming on television, in the 80s or something. And it would just be like kind of interesting to watch a little bit of it, but I wasn't obsessed with it. I thought it was kind of cool, but I think I was too young to understand the meaning behind Star Trek. But now that I see, I have met everybody from all these different episodes and it's like a little family and you just learn that it's actually really good storylines, but I'm not still a fan. Like I'm not running out to go see Discovery or the latest films. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. You can be honest. And it looks like in the picture, when you go through like your pictures on IMDb, the episode you were on, I don't know if it was on the movie of Gods and Men or if it was on Enterprise, but the guy you're across from is the guy from the friend from Matthew Broderick when he steals his buddy.
Oh yeah. Alan Ruck. Yeah. Alan Ruck. He was on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's working all the time. Yeah. He played the captain of the ship.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was filmed in New York. It was a fan film. Everybody was in that. Nichelle Nichols, Walter Keating, Tim Russ directed it. He was also in it. Garrett Wang. There was a bunch of people.
And that was
Star Trek.
That was a fan film. Like fans put together money and found actors to be in it.
Yeah. It's a fan film, and they were trying to, get it picked up with CBS, but they're CBS. They own the rights, so they couldn't really, but it got a lot of views. It was like a little web series, but it was like they flew us over there. They took care of us. It was fun. We got to hang out. But it was really hot. The set was just like no air conditioning. I felt so bad for the Klingon.
Oh, I bet.
Oh my gosh. I was like, oh God. I had this like little outfit on. I didn't have to be green for that one. Chase Masterson had to be green, not me, thank gosh. Oh, anyway.
So So where does your story begin? Where'd you grow up?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah.
Gosh, so many places. I was born here, but I was raised in Canada.
Oh, you're raised. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was raised in Alberta, Canada, in a small town called Camrose. But yeah, I lived there for about 8 years, and then I came to Arizona, and then eventually New York City, and was based there as I modeled all around the world, and then eventually came over here to LA, Los Angeles in 2004, I believe it was.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. So when did you start? How old were you when you started doing modeling?
In my 20s, early 20s, like really early 20s. I was a baby. I was a dancer first. So I was doing my dancing thing and then traveling with that around the world. And then, like ballet and jazz. And I did a lot of stuff with that. And then I just realized that modeling paid a lot more money
Yeah.
and it was more opportunities. So, yeah, I miss dance, but I miss it all. It was just such a fun time in my life. I was like a gypsy.
Yeah, you're able to go wherever you wanted to, traveling.
I've been to so many beautiful countries all over the world, and it was just really fun. It's fun to do when you're young. I suggest any girl or any guy that can get into that industry. It's such a great way to see the world, and you're taken care of and you get to work and make money and, you don't have to backpack. You can, it's fun.
Yeah. No, traveling itself is something to do at a young age before you start a family or settle down. Just meeting different people, different cultures, even just driving across the United States really is a really great thing.
It's just so important.
Yeah. So when did so throughout all that, like what got you into, wanting to become an actress?
It's funny. I remember being a little girl and always wanting to be a movie star. And I would say things like that in school. I remember telling my friends, but then I don't know. I think dancing was my thing. I wanted to dance. That was my little escape. It was to just be a little ballerina and twirl around. And then I got really serious about it. It was 14 years of dance training. So it wasn't just a side thing. It was like a major thing. And then acting just sort of, I don't know, I guess as I was modeling, I remember my agency sending me on little stuff, like for example, I would be Wilhelmina models and they would send me out on a casting for, Sopranos or Sex and the City. And then I got a taste of being on set. And then I started studying a little bit in New York at Strasbourg. And then when I really got serious about it, when I moved over here, and then it was like, okay, now we're with the big fish over here, So, then it was like, I really had to buckle down and get really serious about my coaching and my classes and studying and booking and agents. And it got, and it was fun. I mean, I definitely have had a good career. It's not over. I'm still waiting for a big, huge break.
Yeah.
Cause it's up and down. I don't know if anybody is listening out there, but our lives, even the big stars, they have years without acting, years. Maybe they're saying no to jobs or maybe there's just no jobs coming in. It's up and down. It's inconsistent. So we have to keep ourselves with our hobbies and have other stuff outside of acting. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. It's funny. I talked to a lot of people that are based in Canada lately. So I interviewed this guy, Jerry Wasserman, who's been over 200 things. This guy, Matt Hill, but they're in Vancouver. But no, they say the same thing. Sometimes they can go Matt Hill, who he played a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle in the third live action movie. He was Raphael and in the suit. And then he does a lot of voice acting for he was on Ed, Edd n Eddy on Cartoon Network for a bunch of years. But he was talking about the same thing. There was 2 years. He had a bunch of money that he was smart. But he's I didn't have work for 2 years. And then all at once, he had 4 voice acting gigs. So that's what it's all about, keeping yourself busy, keeping your mind. So when that time does come, you're just ready to pounce on it. So in your career, when was the first time you were on a show or a movie that you're wow, I'm an actress?
I think it was it might have been either Sopranos or Ed, because those were my first two jobs, or Made in Manhattan. Those are my first three jobs, and they all happened in New York City. And that was at the time where, I was just studying it. It was just something that I fell into. And that's when I was like, you know what, I could do this. Like, I just felt to myself like I had a couple people tell me, like, you're natural. You should really drop modeling and do acting, because it's got longevity, whereas modeling is a very short-lived career. So I wish I would have done it sooner, honestly. But, I don't regret anything. I got to see the world. But, yeah, I guess that was the point. Maybe when I was on Ed or Sopranos, I really was like, okay, now I'm on, like, one of the biggest shows. Like, this is, like, this might be something here.
Yeah, two really big shows.
James Gandolfini, like, hello. I'm just like, all right, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, that show had obviously a wider audience, but especially on networks like HBO, they can like push shows more. But like when you're on a network like Ed was, that show didn't get like a run that it should have. It was on for 4 seasons, right? But Tom Cavanaugh, I think a young Julie Bowen, that was a really good show.
She was great.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and that's how that girl hasn't stopped working since she was on that show.
Yeah, and even before that, like the first time I saw her, and probably the first time a lot of people saw her, she was in Happy Gilmore, and then after that,
oh really?
Yeah, and then she was like the love interest of Adam Sandler in that movie. But so then she's in this, and then now she's on. I don't even know what. I guarantee they probably make like the most in history on Modern Family, because that show's unreal.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. I just giggle just thinking about the show. It's so silly, and she's really funny.
Yeah,
she's great in it.
Her and
she's
Phil
a really
Dunphy.
nice girl.
Oh yeah, that's great.
She was super nice to me, because if you kind of look at us, we have a similar look, and you know how sometimes women are different on the set or whatever. But I came in, she just like gave me a great big hug, and she's asked me all about me, and that never happens. She was amazing. She was so funny and so full of energy. Tiny little thing, but so full of energy. Just like smiling and giddy, and yeah, she was awesome.
So you don't have to mention names or anything, but I'm sure there's the opposite experience. Have you had that at all, like on set? Like,
yes,
very cold. Yes. Yeah,
mean, horrible. Just where you almost wanted to cry.
Yeah.
Really bad. I don't want to name names.
Yeah, I don't want you to either. So then like around right after that, then you're on like a bunch of other pretty good shows like Modern Men, Jag, Desperate Housewives, and then right after Star Trek, then there's Anaconda 3. How did that come about? Like do you remember the audition process?
Well, let's see. Let me think back to when that was. Okay, so I think I was up in Canada shooting a series, actually. So I booked a series regular right before I booked Anaconda 3 and 4.
So that was the Canadians, or no? Was that a different one?
No, it was a different one. It never got picked up. It was called Sabbatical.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Canadian series, and I was up in like, I think it was Saskatchewan.
Okay.
I was shooting there, which was fine because it was great because it was right next door to Alberta, which I could go visit my family for that summer. So we shot that, and then it just never got picked up by CTV, which is a Canadian network.
Yeah.
We shot the pilot, and then it never got picked up. I think it was too dark. It was a really good series, though. I liked it. So then so that didn't get picked up. So I was kind of like, but I felt like I was on a roll, and then I came back down, and I remember being on the plane studying my lines for the Anaconda one. And as I was flying home, I got the audition, and I remember being on the plane studying for it. And I literally went in and was booked right off of my tape.
Oh,
went
wow.
into the audition, and they booked me off of the tape for 2 sequels that was shot in Romania.
Both the movies are shot like right around
like a week later. It was like a week later. I had to fly for like 2 months to Romania. It was nuts. It was so fast.
So how was that, like being, because in the other roles that you had, you were you're like a guest star, but in this, you're like,
well, basically, I was the lead. I carried both films. I mean, I was the heart of the movie. I mean, if you see it, it's like,
oh no, definitely, yeah.
I have a funny story, but I don't know if I should. Actually, I had a great time in Romania. I had a ball. I laughed so hard. It was so much fun. It was my first. I had a lead before in a film. It was called Falling in Love with the Girl Next Door.
Oh, okay.
And I had done a bunch of short, like heavy stuff. So I was prepared for the role, physically and mentally. I think I was prepared to carry a film. That wasn't the problem. I just because of my dance experience, and I did all my own stunts. So it was really fun. Like, honestly, like when somebody asked me, like, what was your favorite role or favorite character to play? When I look back, when I lived in Romania and I did those 2 sequels, honestly, I have to say that was the most fun I've ever had. I mean, just fighting, chasing snakes, even though I never saw one snake the entire movie. Mind you, because it's all CGI.
I know. How is that? Like, do they say, like, it's going to be in this particular direction, like before?
Yeah, exactly. They basically take an X and they put it on the camera lens, and they're like, okay, there's the snake. Action. I'm like, can I have like 30 seconds to start hyperventilating? Because I need that 30. Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever you need, Crystal. I'm just like, okay, thanks. And that's the way it is now. Like, if you're working in a green screen, it's a huge studio, and you're looking at an X. So basically, you're looking at nothing. You're not usually looking at your co-star because you're working on different days.
Yeah.
It's all just, or you're looking at an animal or some, I'm sure a lot of actors can understand this. You have to use your imagination. You have to be trained. You have to use something within yourself that you can find that's going to give you that much fear and give you that look that is convincing as an actor. I mean, it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, to put yourself in a situation that you're not really in, you have to kind of channel something and have some type of imagination. I interviewed William Sadler, who's in a bunch of movies. He was Death and Bogus Journey. He was in Shawshank and The Mist. So I talked to him, and he told a story in the beginning. Right in the beginning of our conversation, because he grew up on a farm in upstate New York, and then he was on Broadway, and then he was in, a bunch of movies like Die Hard 2 and Hard to Kill with Seagal. But his story was, he goes, I'm 8 years old. I'm running around with my buddy. We're using our BB guns, pretend we're shooting at, I think he said Nazis, because it was or Russians. And he's like eating our bologna sandwiches. And he goes, it's so funny. When I finally made it in Hollywood, I like laughed thinking like, wow, like that's what it is. Cause he was like talking about some of the movies essentially he talked a lot. He was only in a few movies with CGI. So like The Mist, like he never really obviously sees the creature that's ripping up this gas station.
Right.
But so like when I was watching Anaconda 3 and 4, like you're watching these scenes and you're like, it's so hard for, like, you don't know what they're going to do. And especially even the directors, because they hand that off to somebody to work on, and you don't know exactly how they're going to finish the film. Like, I know they can obviously work on it afterwards, but no, it's got to be so difficult to do. Like, it's like you said, in 30 seconds, like, hey, this is where you have to look, and here's the emotion you're going to have.
Yeah, and I have to say it was a little intimidating to all of a sudden just work on a couple things and then being thrown into being a lead in 2 movies that had already been like a name to carry. Like John Voight was and Jennifer Lopez, and then the next one I think it was a bunch of other actors that were pretty up there. So it was a little intimidating, and that I have to say, like, that was my biggest fear, is like, what if I get fired in the middle of it? Like, what if I'm not convincing enough as the heroine to fight for these snakes, and so that it definitely came. Yes, of course, we all have that fear. I mean, right now, I like to be challenged. I don't want a role that I could just do in my sleep. Yeah. I want to be challenged. It's like, bring on some more challenging roles. So yeah, I'm up for a challenge.
Crystal's ready. So how was
ready. Let's do it.
How was Romania, like the country itself?
It was really cool. I have to say, like, it has the best part about it. It has a great nightlife.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like the most amazing. Like, I don't know if your listeners know this, but like there's these clubs that you go to at night, and it's like it was just crazy. Like, because I've been all around the world, Ibiza, and like when I was modeling, I was very interested in going out dancing and having fun and everything. And Romania is like a huge nightlife. They'd have these clubs, and I would walk in. I'm like, oh my God, they had these dancers in the show. And like, I was like, what is going on here? Like, beautiful people everywhere. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, Romania? Shopping, not so much. No, the shopping was weak. The food was not good. Everything was overcooked. I eat meat, so everything was overdone, like well done. They did have good cabbage rolls, and I grew up with cabbage rolls.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, my mom used to make them. So, but yeah, I mean, it was just fun. It was just, when you're immersed in another country and you're shooting a film, you kind of become a little family, and you hang out with the other co-stars and you go explore the city. It has so much culture. They put us up at the Hilton, and the best part about that was I would come home sometimes take a shower from all the mud I was covered in.
Yeah.
And then I would sit up like where they had this little like area where you'd have a drink or, a little happy hour thing. And there would be like Shakespeare just down in the courtyard playing for the audience. And then the next night there'd be like Swan Lake would be like, I'm like, what? They're so cultured as far as like, they love plays, like really, really, really good plays, traditional plays, Shakespeare. It's a very traditional country. And I would just say that was my most favorite part about it, was the culture. That's
great. Was there any of the co-stars that you worked with that you're like, oh my God, I'm working with so-and-so? Because there were some big names in these movies.
Yeah. Like my agent's like, guess who you're going to be working with in Anaconda 3? David Hasselhoff. And I kind of giggled and I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Like, I've never met him. It'll be fun, and he was hysterical. I think he's a great guy. I don't know if you don't know him, like, you have to know him he is so funny. Like, he will say his stuff. Like, I'm like, he's so like witty, and like, he doesn't take any shit from anyone. He makes fun of himself, but he does it in a way that's like really, I don't know. He's so fun. I laughed my ass off on that movie. Thank God he was there, because if he wasn't there, I would have been so bored.
No, he seems like a guy that gets it, in a lot of movies that he did after, because, he was in 2 amazing hit shows. And then afterwards he got it. Like, he's still super famous, but he was in a lot of things that it was like kind of poking at himself. But those are the best people that can like poke fun at themselves. Yeah. So, take it away.
He's a good sport, and he was going through the toughest time in he was just coming out of his divorce. It was very public, that whole hamburger thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, he was getting shunned, and I remember the paparazzi were like chasing us one night when we all went out for dinner, and they were trying to take pictures, and it was all over the news the next day, and it was just a lot, and I think David was really going through a tough time, and I think going to Romania and shooting that movie was like a little escape for him, Yeah. And I think that he's doing really much better now. I think he loves theater. So he loves to sing and dance and be theatrical. He's very like over the top, which was great for Anaconda,
Yeah. 3. And then the 4th one, how was it working with Lyndon Ashby?
Oh my God, hilarious that you mentioned his name. I just ran into him on a set.
No way.
He was shooting a movie and I was doing a reshoot. Yeah, he was great. Lyndon? Oh yeah, we had a great time. We went out for drinks all the time, and like you say, you become family, you have dinners together and you hang out. Lyndon was great, and I ran into him on the set in LA just like in December, I think, or no, January or February. I think it was February. I was doing a reshoot of Am I a Serial Killer? That's a Lifetime movie of the week. I played the serial killer. Yes.
You play a serial killer? How did you get prepared for that role?
I had already done one for them.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's actually very playing a serial killer is actually really fun and not as hard as you would think. If you think about it, look at all the serial killer movies. Look how much fun they're having. They're playful, they're manipulative, they're funny. So you can do anything you want. You can really you can just
and nobody suspects you for the most part.
Right. Nobody suspects you until the very end. So
yes,
you can play a lot of color. I love playing roles like that. That's when I got that role, I was like, I got this. Like, I literally was not intimidated by it at all. I'm like, I got this. This is exactly what I can do. Like, I'm ready, I'm ready. And I ran into him on the set and he's directing. Lyndon is directing and he's starring in this Lifetime movie of the week that he was doing at that point that we were both overlapping a shoot. Cause we, it was at one big studio and we just saw each other at lunch or something. It was cool. I'm like, oh my God, Lyndon. He's like, Russell. We just started reminiscing about the set and how much we laughed because everything was so funny.
That's awesome. It's funny, like as a kid, like when you watch a lot of, I'm sure there's movies you have nostalgia with, but I know him as Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. And then like years later, I saw him on, what was that? Teen Wolf. And I'm like, I think I know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did a good.
That guy looks so familiar. And then I just go on IMDb and I'm like, oh my God, that's Johnny Cage. I'm like, that's so cool.
What about who else was in the Anacondas that stayed in it? Oh yeah, John Rhys Davies.
Yeah, which is another guy that's just like in everything. Like he's timeless.
I mean, he really, yeah. He's just got that charming kind of villainy. He works all the time. I mean, I remember he was there. And he was in both sequels and his wife and the baby came. So he was like, he had already had children, I think. And then he got married again to a younger woman. And then from New Zealand that he met while he was filming those sequels. What are they? Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And so his wife came and she came with the baby. I mean, the child must have been, maybe 1.5 at that point. I'm sure he's in college now. No, I don't know. No, I don't know. But so he's actually a very interesting actor to watch. Like, you want to see really good acting, man.
Really?
He's the real deal. He's the real deal. Yeah.
Like super into character or?
Well, when they're trained in London, Shakespearean trained, or they've trained in London. They're all coming over here and stealing our jobs. Like they're the best actors. I mean, they really are. So, I love working with English actors because I learn so much from them because I think they're just so well trained. They're theater trained, so they can play like some serious roles. So.
And it's great. No matter who you work with, you could always like pick their brain and like learn things here and there, and people learn things from you.
Oh yeah. He told me, he's like, hey, we were talking about acting one day and I was picking his brain a little bit and he's like, well, I said, I worked on my coach for this scene. He's like, he looked at me. He's like, what are you working with a coach for, darling? You don't need a coach. You've got this. Like, he just kind of was like, you've got to own it. And he just really like believed, like he saw my work and he's like telling me, and I was young. I was still learning, I wasn't as trained as I am now. And he really gave me a lot of advice. And it was like, believe in yourself, own it. I've seen you on set. You've got this. And that's all you need. You don't need a coach. Don't waste your money. And it was just like really cool of him to say that, even though I did work with coaches after that for certain roles, but just to be safe.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, come on now. Sometimes you need a coach, especially if it's like a character, you have a certain dialect or accent. I mean, come on. You need
how do you work with that? How do you do that if you're getting a role as like, okay, Crystal, next week you have an audition, you're a mom from Boston?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would just sort of listen to a movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Off the top of my head, I can't even think about it. Or I would listen to maybe I'd call up a friend that's from Boston, listen to him. If it's something more advanced, would be like, oh, can you do like a Norwegian accent? Okay, well, I would have to call up some of my friends and just speak to them over the phone and see if I can pick up their dialect.
Yeah.
And that's, or I would watch somebody that's on YouTube or whatever. And that's how I usually pick it up. I have a really good ear for accents.
Oh, that's great.
More than I do so hiring a dialect coach. I can actually just kind of pick it up by listening it by my own ear, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I try to do accents and I joke around with my wife, and then somehow they always sound like I'm doing like a bad Apu accent. No matter what, it could be Irish, Scottish, or anything. And it was Australian. I sound like Apu from Simpsons, and she laughs at me. I'm like, wait, you couldn't get what that is? But hey, at least I try.
It's fun, but like it doesn't come naturally to me. I mean, I do this character for fun, and you're Eastern European, and that came naturally to me because it's based on a person I know. So if I can just picture the person talking, the friend that I know, I can imitate them, and then that's the accent maybe.
Oh,
but
wow.
like to all of a sudden do an accent where I'm not like, I have to kind of. It's not easy. I'm telling you, some people can, pick it up, but it does require some time, like double the time to study for an audition for sure, maybe triple if there's an accent involved for sure. Because you have to research it. You have to get it smooth on the tongue. It's got to come out naturally. You've got to study it. You've got to listen. Yeah, the whole thing.
So when does this Am I a Serial Killer come out?
It just came out.
It did?
Yeah. Literally like a month ago, I think. I think you can still find it on YouTube. It's on there, and it's on the Lifetime channel a lot. I don't know when it's on again, but they've been airing it quite a few times in the last couple months. Am I a Serial Killer? Yeah.
So you mentioned something before, I had to click on it. The falling in love with the girl next door.
Yeah, that was my very first movie.
Yeah. Talk about a great cast. I love Ken Marino. I think he's hilarious.
Oh, he's funny. Yeah. Yeah, that was so long ago.
There's a bunch of like heavy hitters.
Really
Patrick Duffy, Shelley Long, Jim O'Hare before he was on Parks and Rec. And then he became Jerry or Gary or whatever they want to call him for that season.
Oh, really? So he's on, oh my gosh, everybody on that show was, well, Patty Duke passed. What? Yeah. Just a couple years ago. She was a riot. She was so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick was hilarious. He was my favorite.
Oh, they were your parents?
Yeah. Yeah, they played my parents, yeah. So we had, we joked on. We were in Catalina Island for 2 months, or not 2 weeks. So we were always getting together for dinners and hanging out on the set. And yeah, so we had, it was lovely. It was really fun. I have to say that was a great time. I had so many great times. I love to be on set.
No, that's awesome. So you mentioned before about like your career is obviously not close to being over and you just want to have that big role. What would be like, is there a particular genre or like something that's in your wheelhouse that, if you saw the audition for like a big movie, like, oh, this is me?
Oh gosh. I mean, I just have like an idea in my head that I want to write.
Oh, okay.
If it comes at me and in a role, it would be basically my life. Like a model turned actress. Well, I'm not going to tell you my idea. I don't want anyone to see it. We're on the air. But it's just about my life. It would be kind of like, it would be a comedy. It would be hilarious because my life is hilarious. If I were to tell you what happens to me every day, I tell my friends, I'm like, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? And I get on the phone with them and I tell them a story and they're like, you can't write this shit. Excuse me if I swear. No, and I'm like, yes, I can. I can write it. I can write it. I'm going to write it. So I'm in the midst of sort of I'm trying to find a person to write with because I don't write.
Yeah.
I've never written anything. But I know I could write it if I had somebody to help me, like a co-writer or a ghostwriter, because I have these crazy, crazy ideas and a great story. So for you to ask me what would be my favorite role, I mean,
because it seems like you can do it all. Like when you look up and down your IMDb, like you've done like thriller, like with the serial killer, the comedies, the action movies. So it seems like you pretty much can do it all.
That's what I mean. It's like, I don't know. It's hard for me to choose because I've done so many different flavors, you know, and I have to say playing the villain is my favorite.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been playing lately. Yeah. The last like 4 or 5 roles I've played the villain. So because that gives you the most freedom as an actor. Playing a villain gives you the most freedom.
Really?
I mean, obviously if you're a lead in a series that's a comedy, yes, you have a lot of freedom there too. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, if, you know, that would be my dream, is to be, you know, if it's a series regular on a hot show and you'd be the lead and it would be a comedy. That would be like my favorite thing right now in my life.
Yeah. And now going back, I meant to ask this before, but we went off on a tangent, which was great. So when you went back and watched, like with Anaconda, was there like a premiere, or did you guys all get together or go to a screening for it?
Oh my gosh. I just remembered I had a little screening at my house.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Because I have a lot of dinner parties, and I was hosting. I cooked a meal. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was lasagna or something. And David came, Hasselhoff. He came.
No way.
And all my friends came. Yeah, it was really cute. There was like 12 of us, and we all gathered around the TV and watched it together and laughed, and it was really fun. Yeah, I just remembered that.
It'd be great if he was the last one to show up and you're just telling your friends and you're like, no, David Hasselhoff, he's really coming over. And then they're like, okay, sure, Crystal. And then bing bong, and he walks in.
That's kind of what happened. Like, I didn't tell them he was coming because I invited him, and then he kind of said, well, I'm not. And I thought, no, he's a busy guy. Yeah. He's a busy guy. He's going through a lot. Like, I didn't even think he was in town. And all of a sudden he shows up at my doorstep as the movie starts. And everyone was like, stop it. So it kind of was like that. I didn't tell anybody he was coming because I invited him and he couldn't make it. So I didn't tell people, oh yeah, David's on his way.
Yeah.
So he surprised me. He's done that a couple times. I invited him to a birthday shortly after that, and he showed up, and he told me he wasn't. He likes to surprise.
That's good.
I think it's because, you know, during that time there was so much going on in the press, and I'm sure it just takes that one person to, you know, say a rumor or something, and then they call TMZ. You know how it works. You know, somebody gets paid something, and, you know, he just didn't want to chance it. He just was private. No,
that's the way you have to. Especially that was what, 10, 11 years ago. Just think about it now.
It's a while
how
ago.
much worse it is.
I know, you're right.
TMZ is obviously still a thing, but it could be, you know, some guy on Twitter in Montana that just writes something, and then somebody believes it and it gets retweeted, and then it just turns into, it's scary. It is a little scary.
I can't even, I don't really tweet. I Instagram. I don't know why. I just can't. The tweeting thing, it's just, you're right. It's scary. You're opening up into dark worlds. To gossip, and I don't like to. I don't want to gossip. It's not nice. I don't want to. It's just not my style. It's just,
no. Only as the villain. Only as the villain on set you can. When the camera's on, then
when you're playing a role.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not on the Beverly Hills Housewives, but they have a lot of fun on that show. I have to say, I watch it. It is pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Along with many other shows, I try not to. I save myself like an hour a night so that I don't, you know, I make, you know, I save it. I'm not like, well, of course, everybody binge watches something once in a while, but it takes up too much time. There's so many good shows out there, isn't there?
There's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot. No, I know. Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for taking the time, and good luck on that. Should be a fun convention.
Yeah, let me know when this airs. I can promote it. Maybe I can tweet it.
Oh, yeah. I wish you the best. Fingers crossed. I'm going to check out Am I a Serial Killer to see that villain side of you.
And maybe watch out for the sequel. I am a serial killer.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Crystal. Have a great
Oh, God. Okay. Have a great night. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Wasn't Crystal awesome? So here's her Instagram handle because she doesn't use Twitter. It's Crystal Allen 13. So your job now, make sure you write this down. This is your homework. Watch Anaconda 3 Offspring. It's got her. It's got Hasselhoff. And that's it. That's all you need. It's a fun movie. Me and Jamie recorded this one in our studio. Well, makeshift studio for now. But this is a cool one to do in person. So check it out. Don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. Good night.